All right. For our last episode of the QBV Room, episode 6, we are joined by two in-person guests. First time in-person guests right here. We got Will Kelly and Ryan Nurse, who are both currently athletic trainers at Nichols College. Will went to Bridgewater State and also worked for Brown while he was there. Ryan went to the University of Maine, was a recent graduate from there, and also worked for a couple sports teams there. So these guys at a young age have already been able to work with a wide range of athletes from different divisions, different sports, and things like that. So, and of course, I'm joined by my co-host Ant Rivera.
What's
So,
going on?
so today we're going to talk about just some different things from kind of their perspective, being athletic trainers, about how athletes should stretch. They should how they can prevent injuries, how to come back from injuries, stuff like that. So we'll kind of get the ball rolling, and Ant, you can start it off.
Yeah, so to get the ball rolling. So let's talk about something that I feel like is really looked over, and that's like stretching. So how does stretching either bring you to the next level, or how does that something that you use for recovery or prevent injury per se?
So I think the big word is everyone looks at it as stretching as one word. I mean, looking at it in a different way is pliability, which means how your muscles can elongate and stay healthy in that way. So basically that's what stretching does, but pliability is more of an umbrella term. So yoga, stretching from static, or movement stretching too. It's massive for athletes. I mean, when we were kids, I mean, that's the big thing too, is they'd be like, oh, stretch, it's time to stretch. And I remember all the times I'd be like, oh, crisscross applesauce, I'm just going to sit here for 15 minutes. And I mean, that definitely takes a big play. You don't really notice it. I mean, when you're a young athlete, you don't really notice because nothing really affects you. You're still young, you're still growing. But once you get to the high school level or the more competitive level, it's very important to really stretch, really focus on making sure that you're ready before a game. One big thing is making sure your muscles are warm. I mean, people say it all the time, but it's really important to make sure that maybe you just go for a jog, make sure you're not going from, I just sat in a car for 15 minutes, or I was just on a bus ride for 2 hours to a game. Now I'm just going to go out and sprint. That's how a lot of soft tissue injuries happen. And a good way to prevent that is literally just by starting out with a light jog, or doing high knees, or just really getting your body moving and warm before you start into play.
Yeah. So do you think you guys could go into the difference between dynamic and static movement, how that benefits you before or after a game and anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, dynamic warm up is just so crucial to before a game, before a practice. Getting that blood flow going is just so important to keeping your muscles healthy throughout. Now here in New England, it's around 35 down to even in the 20s. And see that these athletes, they come out here and their muscles are super cold. So that dynamic warm up is so crucial to having them warm up. And make sure everything that they're doing is functional movements. Like Will mentioned, getting the jog, getting the high knees, butt kicks, that's all so important. This way it simulates what you're doing in game, in practice. And then following practice, almost none of our athletes like to do static stretching, but that's even equally as important, because after your muscles have exhausted themselves for 45 minutes, hour and a half, even a 2-hour practice, and these athletes just go back to sitting in their cars, they go back to their dorms, they lie down, they need to remember to static stretch, go through the whole butterflies, stretch their hamstrings, and whatever part they were working during practice, they should static stretch, because that's how your muscles start to heal themselves.
Now, what about before lifting sessions? Because especially right now with a lot of guys and athletes are lifting on their own. So how should they stretch before lifts?
I mean, I think the great thing too is Ryan was talking about this before, is you really got to start moving. A lot of times kids will come in before practice and be like, hey, can I get a heat pack? I mean, it does help heat your body, but one of my best suggestions, and one thing I've learned by just being around really smart athletic trainers and stuff too, is the best way to heat your body is actually through movement. So say if you have someone that's got a hamstring injury or something like that, the best way to get that internal heat is through just go on a bike for 15 minutes. You're going to find that deep heat even easier going on a bike, jogging, doing stuff like that, than just leaving a heat pad on for about 10 minutes. Going back to your question, working out wise, just if you're at a gym, You can hop on a bike, stretching straps. I mean, a lot of places have all these like opportunities that we don't even look at. Like if you look at Planet Fitness, they have a stretching room. They have like med balls. They have all this stuff that you can really utilize. Take that 10 minutes before you work out. That's when you can put some songs on, grab some stuff, just really like set yourself up for a good workout.
Yeah. Working out, like what you're doing, you're breaking down all those muscle fibers, like deep in those tissues. And a very neglected part about working out and going to the gym is stretching before and after. I like to preach to like stretch when you wake up in the morning, stretch before your workout, stretch after your workout, and then stretch before you go to bed. Because the recovery part of it, I know like TB12 method, they preach about recovery. The recovery aspect is so crucial, and stretching will just help you that much.
You just mentioned kind of some things to obviously it's a good thing to help prevent injuries and things like that. So what are some other things you guys have noticed that really help athletes with injury prevention?
You want to speak on this?
Yeah, sure. One of the things I like to help with injury prevention is getting in the habit of doing like functional movements of your sport before you get to like full team practices for full organized activities, things like that. The more you can train your body to meet your body's demands for that practice, whether it's football, a track, if you're just lifting, if you train your body to those movements, you will prevent yourself from getting hurt. The best things you can do, once again, stretching, your diet is huge. I mean, we say like 60 to 70% about injury prevention is all in your diet. And then the rest of it is just taking care of your body. So make sure that you're watching what you eat, getting all the right supplements in your body, and even sometimes just going natural with your fruits and veggies. It goes a long way in protecting your body for sure.
I think another thing to add to this too is like a lot of athletes think that like, oh, I'm made in the weight room. Like I'm just like, if I can bench 300, it's going to make me such a better athlete. I think a lot of thing too is like a lot of lightweight, like kettlebell swings, and a lot of just like more movement, like you said before, functional movement, a lot of like, doing like box jumps and stuff like that, building that power. Because if you're a wide receiver, you need to build explosiveness. Like, yes, working out does help, benching does help, but make sure you're working on sprinting, working all those like moves that it takes to be a sprinter and stuff like that. You're gonna really focus on that stuff.
The fast twitch movement, stuff like that.
Exactly. I mean, you just can't forget that, like with like explosive athletes and stuff too.
Yeah, the best way things are gonna happen, like Will said, if you're a receiver, you're not gonna be like an O lineman. You're not gonna be benching 300 pounds off the line. So make sure you focus on those, all those movements that you have to do that you will do in game, and that functional aspect will help your game and help you stay away from injuries in general.
Yeah. So obviously, like injuries are inevitable. So in the unfortunate event that you do get injured, like what's your advice for an injured athlete?
I think the first thing I'd like to speak about is like mental headspace. I think a lot of the times, like the fastest way to recover is through a like positive attitude. We see it all the time when kids get like a really bad injury, or like you could just tell it's not going to be a good, like people with their head down. I mean, it's very hard. Your first thing you think is, oh, my season's over, but you just got to think that, you know what, I can overcome this. I mean, in the NCAA, there's always a good chance you get like a medical red shirt or gray shirt where you can get your season back. You just got a positive mindset coming into an injury or out of an injury is very huge. I mean, you can't think about the negatives. It's very hard not to think about the negatives, but really just trusting and having faith in your training staff, because we're here for the best, to make you the best athlete you can. And there's a lot of good advice. If you follow them and you believe in a system, it's the best way to do it. And then just being really like, I can't think of the word, like motivated into what you want to do. So like being committed to your rehab plan. So like if the athletic trainer says, hey, if you can come down 3 or 4 times a week, we can work for 25 to 30 minutes. Like that's where you're going to find it. Like being able to grind and put in the effort really makes a difference in the recovery too.
Yeah.
Some of the best things we do as athletic trainers, we put your body in the best environment for it to heal. All the modalities we use, all the body work we do, all the stretches we promote, all the rehab programs we give you, we're just trying to put you in the best possible environment to see your body heal. your body heals on its own. The tissue healing process is going to do what it wants to do. And the best thing you can do, the best thing we can do is just make sure we adhere with whatever your body wants to do. So
yeah, 100%. I feel like a lot of athletes think that like the trainers are trying to keep them off the field when that's not true. Like for myself, like I got hurt my sophomore year. I destroyed my back, and I didn't put the enough trust into my trainers and stuff like that. I came back early, and I went to the doctor and I got a shot and I did all this stuff, and I came back, and then I ended up like hurting myself again, just like doing OTAs, and it ended my career. And that's like very good advice to really put that trust and build that foundation with your training staff.
I think that, yeah, that was one thing I wanted to hit too, is a lot of people look at us and be like, oh, that's the person that's going to hold me out. You know, like I got to like stay away. Like when I see him, I'm not even going to say hi to him because I don't want to know my name. That's the exact opposite. We want healthy athletes. We have been trained to see like injuries and be able to know when it's time for you to go. Like we're not going to let you be like, oh, you can't go because this is like the wrong with this. Like we know when to send an athlete back or when to hold back with an athlete. And trusting us is really going to help you in the long run too.
Yep. Yeah, and just kind of another example too. I've seen the difference of guys who will trust the process and guys who don't trust the process. There's a kid I can think of who had the same exact injury as another one, and one of them trusted the trainers, they trusted the process, and he came back completely fine. Came back probably a better football player, and yet the other kid came back and couldn't really be out there because his leg was holding him back. You know what I mean? So there's definitely a method to their madness. So to any athletes that are listening, that's definitely something that you just got to trust. Like they said, you just got to trust the process when it comes to coming back from injury. So awesome. All right, Ant, do you have anything else that you wanna ask or anything?
Not really to ask, but just to reiterate, like for our guys listening out there, like don't like take care of yourself. Don't rush back from an injury. Don't make the mistake that I made. Like these guys want to get you back on the field, and that's what they want to see at the end of the day is you out there playing the sport you love. So that's they're there to help you do that. So put your trust in your trainers and their staff, and they're really there to help you guys.
100%. All right, Will, Ryan, thank you very much for joining our last episode of the QBV room for this
Thanks,
season.
appreciate it.
It was a blast. Thanks for having us on.
Us. Awesome. Thanks.